Hello, this is Patrick at OneCNC West, and what I'd like to do in this video is just demonstrate some of the CAD tools that are only provided by OneCNC Mill Expert. So to begin with, I'm just going to sketch a real simple shape here. I'm just grid point snapping, something like that. I think that looks great. And let's give this some thickness. Let's create a solid model by using our extrude curves command. All right, so I'm going to say that looks great. All right, so far everything I've done can be accomplished also within Mill Professional, but now let's take a look at some of the exclusive CAD features provided by Mill Expert. The first one we're going to take a look at is called shelling. Now, what shelling is going to do is it's going to create a cavity inside the part. And this is going to generate a uniform wall thickness. And in regards to wall thickness, here's where you specify that. I'm going to use 100 thousandths wall thickness, and I'm also telling OneCNC to remove the face that I digitize. I'm going to click OK to that. I'm going to left click right here and then right hand mouse click. And there you go. You can see the shell. Very nice. So I'm going to quickly undo that. I want to give you another example. We'll go back into shelling. This time, let's make this a little smaller. How about 50 thousandths? And this time we'll just left click the top of the part. Very, very nice. Okay, so the shelling command is provided by OneCNC Mill Expert. Very powerful tool. Now, the next set of tools we're going to look at that's only provided by OneCNC Mill Expert are the parting tools. Now, parting tools are really specifically designed for creating mold split lines and assisting when working with creating molds and cavities and things like that. However, you can use this for your everyday work as well. One of my favorite tools is this one here called Split Job. Okay, and what that's going to do is it's going to split our geometry. So let's go with Split Job. We'll click OK. I'm going to split this geometry at Z minus 750 thousandths, and I'm going to put a separation gap of 2 inches in between the top and the bottom. So I'm going to click OK to that, and there we go. There is the split. Very, very efficient, a quick way to accomplish this, and I didn't have to digitize any geometry. Now, the next thing I want to demonstrate is something called Perfect Render. Perfect Render is only available within Mill Expert, and what it does is it generates a bitmap. Now, the bitmap is great because you can provide this to the customer. It's going to give a more accurate representation of the part because it's going to include things like reflections and shadows and things like that. In fact, to magnify the reflection, I think what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to select that bottom surface, and why don't I just quickly give it a bright color? All right, I think that looks good. So we'll just use that green there. So we're going to head back over into our model tools. We're going to select Perfect Render. All right, and so let's take a look at some of these parameters. The first is the coloring. Now, if I click here, there's different color palettes that OneCNC can use within the Perfect Render, but I'm going to choose database colors, and that way OneCNC uses the colors over here. Now, because we're going to be working with shadows and reflections, lights have to come into play. So this is the actual configuration of the lights. You can specify a random configuration, circuit or top. There's different ones here. I like this circuit or 4-light option. And then here, this is going to be the actual resolution of the bitmap. It also controls, of course, the size as well. And there's different ones you can select, or you can create a custom size if you'd like. I'm just going to go with 800 by 600. So we'll click that. That looks good. And then here we have our different options like shadows, reflectivity, glass base. If you select glass base, that's like the part is sitting on a glass table, and you're going to see some reflections on that glass table. I'm going to leave that unchecked. And then here you have the slider that controls the intensity of these things. I'm going to leave that right about there, and let's click Render Now. Now, this is a scanline render, so it's going to make a couple passes. This first pass is a rough pass. That's why these edges look a little bit jagged. Now it's performing a second pass, and that's going to sharpen up the edges. That's kind of a final pass. Now, notice that you can see reflections and you can see shadows. Very nice. Now, another thing to point out is that your orientation here within the main window and your zoom factor is what's going to be translated over into the Perfect Render. So if I go with Perfect Render, you can see now that this render is the exact duplicate of this. It's using this orientation and that zoom. All right, so Perfect Render, it's a neat tool, and it's only provided by OneCNC Mill Expert. Okay, so it's making its finish pass. Up here, it gives you a percentage of the rendering, how far it's been completed. And there we go. It took 12 seconds to render that. Okay, so let's undo this. I'm going to hit Control Z, Control Zebra on the keyboard. In fact, let's undo it all the way to there. And let's create a couple of pockets on this part. So I'm just going to sketch a rectangle there. Let's put another one over here. To make things interesting, let's create a construction plane right there. And why don't we create a pocket on that as well? And I'm just grid point snapping just to speed things up. Okay, so let's create a pocket. We're going to use our extrude cut. We'll make that a shallow pocket. And let's go back and extrude that one, extrude cut that one, okay? All right, and let's take it a step further and just add a couple of chamfers. So 60 thousandths chamfer, I'll put on all those pockets. Okay, now to make this more clear, or to demonstrate that we don't need wireframe geometry, I'm going to delete the wireframe geometry so we just have that, okay? And let's change our construction plane back to the default construction plane. Okay, very good. All right, so here we go. We have a part, we have some different pockets on here, and let's say that there's a different iteration of this part where this pocket is not in the part. Well, instead of having to completely redraw this part again with all the pockets and all the other features that might be associated with the part, instead of redrawing this all over again, OneCNC Mill Expert provides the ability to get rid of a pocket or a hole within a solid model. Now, to demonstrate that, we're going to head back over to the Command Manager, and we're going to look right here, remove a hole or pocket. And while we're here, these 4 features are only available within Mill Expert. I'm going to go with remove a hole or pocket, and I'm just going to left click on that uppermost boundary of the chamfer and then right click. And when we're done, you can see the OneCNC has removed the pocket. So what I've done is I've actually created another iteration of this part without having to completely redraw the part. Very, very nice. Okay, so that is a feature that's only provided by OneCNC Mill Expert. Now, the last thing I'd like to show you is something called Pages. What is Pages? Well, Pages is the ability to create 2D geometry or 2D dimensions or prints from a 3D part. We're going to come down here, we're going to select Pages, and the first thing that you need to do is you need to select a page, or it's kind of like a template, and you have these different styles, and you can make your own templates. In fact, we can dedicate a whole video to this. There's just so much you can do here. It's very powerful. I'm going to go with just an ANSI. Let's just go with the ANSI A. We'll click OK to that. So here is our page view with our template. And what we're going to do now is we're going to add some views. So why don't we add a top view of our part? And here's a quick preview of what the top view is going to look like. Place view on page. And once you do that, that menu disappears. You can take your cursor and you can place that wherever you'd like. All right, now let's create, how about a front view? All right, so we're going to go front view, place view on page. Now we can place that on top or bottom, whatever we'd like. And why don't we stop or complete this with making an isometric view. Let's place that right there. All right, very good. Now at this point, I'm just going to click OK. So this is your page view, and down here, you notice you have these arrows. So you can click back and forth between model view and page view anytime that you'd like. Something else that's pretty cool is that if I hit Control Z a couple times and bring that pocket back, let's go back into our page view, and in fact, let's launch this. And remember when I created this earlier, we didn't have that pocket there. Now we do have the pocket, so if I come up here and say update page, notice how instantly and really fast it's added that to all the different views there. So that's neat. Now, once you have this, you can apply your different dimensions if you want to. I don't have my dimensions configured the way I usually would have them, but let me give you a couple of examples. A vertical dimension, we'll place one there and there. Yeah, and you can see the text is kind of big and things like that, but that's because I haven't set my my parameters of what I usually use. I usually like a little smaller size, and I like solid arrows and things like that. But you can add your dimensions. You can print this out if you want to. I just did a couple there. Let's make one more. How about a radial dimension? That's kind of sloppy, but you get the idea on that. Okay. Now, again, this is a page view, and using these arrows, you can pop back and forth. And what's really neat is this is saved with a part file, so you can bring this up anytime that you'd like. Very, very powerful, and provided by OneCNC Mill Expert. All right, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.